Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're going to get this class started with Kathleen and Lisa Putnam. So take it away.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Lisa. My sister Kathleen will be teaching the class today, and I'll chime in from time to time. Kathleen's a master gardener and has went to City College for environmental horticulture, and also is an ISA certified arborist. And her main passion is fruit trees. So you're in for a treat. And cover cropping. She's a very capable agriculturalist. All right, Kathleen.
And Lisa is also a master gardener and a organic farm grower. And she went to UC Davis and studied agriculture. And she's also a master composter. Okay, so we're going to talk about fruit trees now. In fact, I just got an email yesterday from my local nursery that bare root fruit trees are in. And if you want to plant fruit trees, bare root is the way to go. You can see they've been doing it forever. This is before cameras in France. And this is now, this tractor is digging up bare root fruit trees.
Wow.
Oops. Okay, let's go. Shoot, it's not letting me go ahead. Oh,
Maybe try moving your cursor, Kathleen,
Yeah.
up to the.
Oh, let me do this. Nope. Lisa, do you have this?
Shoot, I don't think I have this presentation, but I'm wondering if you escape and stop and just bring it back up and don't do it in play.
Yeah,
I think it's not as pretty, but I think it'll work.
hold
Yeah.
on just a sec.
Sorry, everybody. I know we
Sorry.
should be better. We can talk about pruning in the meantime. I don't know if people are, when Kathleen's getting that up, I'll just talk about pruning for a minute. We did do a pruning class for Lyngso, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago. And you can go onto their website and you can look at any class that's been done. But I know I just came in from pruning my peach tree. And I think that class is good. It shows you where to make the cut. And this is the time. There we go. This is the time to be doing your fruit tree pruning. All right.
Okay, so this is a tree, and I have this slide because the biggest problem I see with people that plant bare root fruit trees is they don't plant it high enough. And when you drew pictures of trees when you were a kid, you always drew a root flare. So that's the most important thing when you plant a bare root fruit tree, is that you plant it high enough. So what we're going to cover: basics, tree selection, site location, soil preparation, planting, first cut, which is the hardest thing to do, irrigation, disease prevention, and pest management. So the basics: your fruit tree is actually two trees. You have the rootstock, which is down here. You have the bud union, which is where the scion, the variety you're planting, is grafted to the rootstock. This is, if you buy your bare root fruit trees and your planting site is not ready, you don't just want to leave them where the roots are going to be exposed. So you need to dig a hole somewhere and just put them in it, cover up those roots so they stay moist until you're ready to plant.
And that's something you do immediately. I mean, obviously it'd be best if you had your site ready to go when you go to the nursery to buy your trees, or they come in the mail to you. But if you don't want them overnight. You know, this is something you do immediately if you don't have your site prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Because those roots will dry out and then your tree will die. So why bare root? They're inexpensive. They're $40. There's an incredible variety. You make that first cut. If you buy a 24-inch box or even a 5-gallon that's been growing for a year or two, you're not going to be able to make that first cut that you really need to make. And they establish quickly. And I have clients that have planted 48-inch box, so like a full-grown fruit tree. And of course, it's not pruned properly, but within 3 years, your bare root fruit tree is going to be bigger and healthier than if you buy a full-grown tree.
Yeah. I'll just emphasize what Kathleen just said, because we have seen it over and over again with clients that they want a big fruit tree right now instead of waiting the 2-3 years. And I was just saying before we came on live, I was pruning. I have a peach tree. It's 3 years old, going into its 4th year right now. And it is so big and I've pruned it every year, but it's so healthy that the trunk is probably, it's like this. And I planted it from bare root 4 winters ago.
Yeah, it's really amazing the difference it makes, I think. And I mean, at $40 versus, I have no idea what a big tree costs, but it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So do bare root, and they're in right now. So tree selection. This seems really obvious, but it's worth saying. Plant fruit you like to eat. You know, if you don't like plums, don't plant a plum. And I went to Sagona's and I got some pluots and they were absolutely delicious. So I planted some because I know I'll eat it. They were absolutely delicious. So if you get something in the store that you really like, see if you can get it bare root and, you know, plant stuff you really like. Okay. Performance. Apricots and cherries. Apricots are very difficult in our area because we get cold rainstorms when their flowers are coming out. I think apricots about once every 5 years, most people get a good crop. And cherries are very difficult to grow in our area. They're the most difficult tree to keep alive. They're susceptible to all kinds of diseases and viruses. And almost every cherry needs a pollinator. So you're going to have to plant 2 cherries. And if you have limited space, they're tough. And if you do get a crop, which you might not, the birds will eat most of your fruit.
Yeah. I'll just pile on again here. You know, if you have a huge orchard, if you have 5 acres and you're planting 100 trees or something, then of course, you know, put some cherries and put some apricots. But if you have a normal lot and you can only have 5 trees or less, you know, and you love peaches and you love nectarines, you know, just if you have unlimited space, I'd go ahead and plant some apricots and cherries, because cherries are beautiful. They're really a pretty tree. But if you have limited space, you really, really have to think about what fruit you really enjoy eating.
I will say I just picked out 15 fruit trees for my brother, and he was with me, and we didn't get a single apricot or cherry.
Yeah.
We got an aprium, which there's an aprium that tastes like an apricot should, is the description.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see how it performs. I expect it to perform better than an apricot.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, I have an apricot in my old orchard that I still tend. I have a Blenheim, and then I have a red sweet. And, you know, that every 5 years, it's worth it to me. Okay, I don't have a crop for 4 years, but on that 5th year, when I do get a good crop, I'm really happy I have that apricot tree. So again, it depends where your tolerance is. You know, if you want fruit every year and you want a big crop every year, then no. But if you don't mind waiting 5, it probably depends how if you, a crop, that might only be like 3 more crops for the rest of my life. But, anyway, so,
Yeah, but you also have 20 some odd trees.
yeah, well, in my old orchard, I've got a lot of trees and I still get to take the fruit from that orchard. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you almost need unlimited space to have an apricot, I think. Anyway,
Yeah, go, sorry.
enough said about apricots and cherries. It's just now you know. So you can make a decision, an informed decision.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a disease very common in cherries. Plus they get aphids like crazy. And here's Eutypa on an apricot. And if you do plant an apricot, don't prune it in the winter. This isn't a pruning class, but just for your knowledge, don't prune it in winter. There's a bacteria, the Eutypa leda, and it will eventually kill your tree. If you prune, it takes 6 weeks for a pruning wound to heal on an apricot in winter, whereas in spring or summer, it takes 2 weeks for that wound to heal enough so it's not susceptible. So if you do plant an apricot, don't prune it in the winter. Okay, tree selection. You need to know your chill hours. Chill hours are when the temperature is between 32 and 45. And trees, they don't know exactly how it works, but if a tree has like 200 chill hours and the tree requires 200 chill hours and we get those 200 hours, it then breaks bud, meaning it starts to leaf out and flower. If we don't get those chill hours in the winter, that tree is going to struggle throughout the spring and summer because it doesn't know to leaf out and to start growing. So it's really important to get the correct chill hours. And I'm going to recommend an article that was written specifically for the Bay Area, but I think we now have to consider global warming and our chill hours are decreasing. And like this weather now, we can get so many chill hours, but then if the temperature gets to like summer temperatures, those chill hours are wiped out and you need to start over. And then heat units are the opposite of chill. And some trees like peaches need so much heat to ripen and be delicious. So you need to be aware of both things when you pick your fruit trees. Okay, tree selection. This is the article I'm recommending. It's out of UC Davis, but it was done locally and it's excellent. It
Nice.
shows the microclimates of San Francisco. It breaks the Peninsula San Francisco into 3 zones. And it shows what stuff will do well in those zones. And here's an example of that. And you can see A is pretty warm, B is moderate, and then C is very low chill hours and not as warm. And it goes through each fruit. It doesn't have some of the newer fruit, but you can look on the tag when you go to the nursery and see what its chill hours are. But it's really nice because it says, does it need a pollinator? What area it'll do well and when the harvest is.
Yeah.
So
And-
this is a super helpful article.
Yeah, and 2 things I'd like to mention. Kathleen and I are coming to you from the Bay Area in Northern California. I know with Zoom, sometimes we have people from like Florida or England, or so this class is focused on kind of mid-peninsula, as you can see from the chart. And the other thing is, I think Can will send out the slides, so you don't have to jot down the URL. That should come to you. And then you can look at this complete chart.
Yes.
Okay.
And very much worth looking at. I will say I hired a really reputable fruit tree landscaper, and they put in a pear in my backyard and they didn't put in the pollinator. So this year I ordered the pollinator and I'm gonna have to squeeze in, I'm not exactly sure where, but I ordered it already. Because I want those pears. So make sure if it needs a pollinator, like you can see wine sap down here, needs a pollinator, you need to make sure you have the pollinator. And that's maybe my next, here we go, that's my next slide. Nice segue. So a lot of fruit trees need pollinators. Some are self-fruitful, which it'll say on the tag. But if it needs a pollinator, you will not get fruit without that pollinator. I have a pluot in my backyard, and the people next door to me have a Santa Rosa plum, which is the pollinator. That's close enough. If you know your neighbor has a specific tree that will pollinate yours, you don't need to buy that pollinator. It just needs to be. And how far do bees fly? They fly pretty far.
I want to say it's over 500. I think it's a long ways. I can't remember now either.
Yeah, but
They're like a super highway.
Yeah, it's a decent distance. So if your next door neighbor or even someone in your neighborhood has the pollinator, you're probably good.
Yeah.
And here's an example. This is from, I believe, Trees of Antiquity. And you can see down here, it requires a different variety with same bloom period. They have, you can find the bloom period easily on this website. It's one of the,
Well, it
another
lists it
thing-
right there.
yeah, but to see what else blooms at the same time, it's in the filters. You can require that. So just be aware, it's really important to get a pollinator if you need one. Okay, tree selection. When I pick trees, especially when you're putting in a new orchard, you can get an early, mid, and late harvest. So you can really extend your harvest from spring until, well, depending on what fruit you do. I mean, if you do apples and pears, you can go into winter. And if you throw citrus in there, pretty much year round, you can have fresh fruit. And Dave Wilson has great recommendations to extend your harvest, and they have a really nice harvest chart on their website. Anything there, Lisa?
No, other than just looking at that tree you have pictured. I don't know if that basket full of fruit was from that tree or not, but that's a very well maintained tree, and whoever thinned the fruit did a really nice job, because all that fruit has sized up really nicely and it's all by itself. That has nothing to do with the bare fruit tree class, but I'm just impressed on whoever thinned the fruit on that tree.
That's from the book, How to Grow a Little Fruit Tree. I think is the name of it. It's a great book.
Is that Cass somebody, or is that?
No,
I know.
that's someone else. She used to work at Berkeley Hort.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's in my references.
Yeah. I see in the chat, honeybees fly several miles. Yeah, that was my recollection, and then it sounded too far to me. But
Yeah.
that's right, and they're like a super highway. But
Amazing.
yeah. So if you have a pollinator, certainly within your neighborhood, you're probably a-okay.
Yeah. You may need to know the specific variety. I mean, just a plum doesn't do it. You need to know, is that a Santa Rosa plum? But that's pretty easy to do. Just ask them.
Yeah.
Okay. Site location, sun.
That's a good photo.
Yeah, I can't emphasize it enough that fruit trees must be grown in full sun. Even small amounts of shade reduce flower bud formation and fruit set. It's amazing how much they need sun. And if they have full sun, you won't have as many pests or diseases because your tree is going to be happy.
Yeah. And I know Kathleen's already emphasized it, but I'm just lucky, actually. It was a criteria of the house we bought that I have a southwest facing garden area. And that's one of the reasons we bought the house we did. And it'll sound like I'm bragging or something, but I mean, my orchard is doing so well. And it's nothing to do with any talent I have. It has to do with I have full sun. I mean,
Yeah, think of your fruit tree as a solar panel. And you want to put your solar panel in full sun to get the most power.
Yeah.
Kind of the same concept.
yeah. And that's what photosynthesis, hitting the sun, hitting those little leaves.
Yeah, photosynthesizes and it makes everything go. Our whole world, in fact.
Yes.
Okay, so soil preparation, plant high. If you go through the Central Valley, you see all the trees are planted up on berms. You're going to take that same concept for each individual tree. So you're going to make mounds and you're going to plant your fruit tree on top of a mound. And you're not going to amend the mound. You're going to put native soil below it and above it. And on top of that, you'll put compost and then mulch.
I know okay. Yeah. So
What?
I'll just emphasize that again. It's almost impossible to plant too high. So we don't dig a hole. People, I'm going to go dig a big hole to plant my tree. And we've never dug a hole to plant a tree. We put the tree on top of the soil.
Yeah. And where this is where you would take soil from here and put it there. So you're making a water basin by digging the soil from here and putting it onto the mound. And you do that all the way around. And here I put this green line because this is too deep. You're not getting a good root flare there. Okay, so a visible root flare is crucial to tree longevity. And that's how trees are supposed to look. And then this, I love this picture, so I threw it in there.
I know. Think how tenacious that tree is.
I know, right?
Yeah, they obviously took away the cement and gave it a little bit more room for its roots. But
Yeah, if we went back, I bet those roots have gone into that space.
yeah.
Okay, so this was a tree that used to be in my backyard. I took it out because it was about 6 inches too deep and I couldn't, it was struggling, it looked bad. So I took it out and I made a mound. And then I put the new tree on top of that mound, spreading out the roots. And I covered the roots with soil. And then I put irrigation, and the next day I fixed the irrigation, which I broke in the process of digging my mound. And I put compost, cover crop, and I repaired my irrigation and I mulched.
Yeah. So that soil around those roots is all from your yard. And then you put a little bit of compost on top of that and then a little bit of mulch on top of that.
Exactly. And cover cropped. And you can see all the clover in my yard.
Yeah.
That's when I was on my clover kick.
Yeah.
So this is at in San Mateo at what used to be the fairgrounds. I don't know what they call it now. We have an area that the master gardeners are working on, and we planted, I don't know, like a dozen fruit trees, maybe not quite that many. So this is just showing we made a mound. We put the tree on the mound, then we put compost on top of it. Then we put a cover crop, which was just a mix of like 12 plants, 12 seeds. And this is the benefits of cover cropping. A lot of people think this is just my little rant, so bear with me. I just found this slide and I think it's so interesting. Most people think that plants take, when actually plants give more than they take. And if you cover crop, you're going to use less water, which is amazing, but true. you're gonna have, your surface soil is gonna be less, you're gonna have better water infiltration, and you're gonna have dew collected by that cover crop canopy. So cover crop,
Yeah.
isn't that a cool slide?
It's a cool slide, and it's, if you want to do an experiment, I mean, this, I know it sounds silly, but I mean, I had just a little like house plant, but a little weed grew in that house plant. I had an identical house plant without the little weed growing in it. And I used so much less water, and the soil was in such better condition of the little house plant that had the weed than the house plant without the weed. I mean, it was just amazing to me how much more water holding capacity there was with two little plants in the same space versus one little plant.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
They don't take, they give. Okay, that was my little rant. So then we mulched it with the cover crop that we had cut down, which is a great thing to do with your cover crop. When
That's
you
smart.
cut it down, then you just use the residue as a mulch.
Did you put 2 trees in that one mound?
No, what I always do, so I cut off the top, and then that's the top with the tags on it.
I see. I see. Okay. And you got the soil again for that mound around that tree?
Yeah, you can, I don't know if you can see it, but here's where we dug up.
Yeah.
And I am waiting for the day that this tree actually grows. It might.
Now, were you concerned at all? That looks really close to the fence that tree is
We're
going to.
exfoliating that one.
Oh, okay. What kind of tree?
Pear.
Okay, that'll look nice.
Yeah. And then the irrigation will be put on it later. And this is, you can see how high that mound is. That's just to show you the
Yeah.
mound.
I'm just going to emphasize that again, because I planted all my trees in my orchard, I'm going to say 12 to 18 inches above grade. And at the time, I even called you, I think, Kathleen, I said, oh my God, I planted them so high. It looks almost ridiculous. Maybe there were even more than 12 to, maybe it was like 18 to 24 above grade. You know, I mulch, not every year, but I mulch every few years with a nice layer of mulch. Those trees settle down. And as you mulch, I mean, when I go out to my orchard now, it's hard to tell that I even planted 18 to 24 inches higher than grade. They now look like they're at grade or a little bit above grade. So when you plant them, you think it looks ridiculous, but a few years later, it's like, oh my God, I probably should have planted them even higher than I did.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like the plant goes down and the soil goes up. So it's almost impossible to plant too high. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, root flare. Here's your root flare. You want your soil level down there. And even if you see roots, that's okay. You'll mulch and you'll cover up those roots. And some of the roots can be exposed. That's fine too.
Oh.
And you want to plant, this is the bud union here. So this is your rootstock. Here's your variety or your scion. And this is the bud union. And you want this to face north. This is very susceptible to sunburn and damage. And you want to keep it healthy. So you're going to face that north, and then you're going to paint. I paint the whole thing from here down to here because there's no foliage yet to protect that tree. So I paint it with a 1-to-1 ratio of water-based paint and water. It's kind of like a whitewash. And it's just kind of like putting sunscreen on your plant so it doesn't get sunburnt.
And how often do you paint then?
You know, the paint's good for a year or two. You just kind of keep an eye on it as the tree grows. Depending on how you prune it, you might need to paint it every year, every couple years. It's super easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Just
And-
latex, 50-50 latex,
Yeah.
gloss, semi-gloss, eggshell.
I prefer matte or flat.
Flat. Yeah.
A lot of times when you go to the hardware store, their mistakes are like really cheap, like $1 for a quart, which you can paint a lot with a quart. And I'll buy that. It doesn't have to be white, it just has to be light.
Yeah.
Pink is lovely. Never's on sale.
Yeah.
Okay, first cut. This is very hard for people to do, but it's one reason why you want to buy a bare root fruit tree is you can make this cut. And this is like 18 inches. So 18 to 24 inches, you make the first cut. And you can see these trees in the Central Valley, they made that first cut. And then they have this beautiful open center low tree. And that's how you keep your tree small, is you start the branching low. So this is making the first cut, and I love the expressions on people's faces, which is why I put this slide in. And that's actually a little high for me.
I was just gonna say, that looks high. If it were me, I probably would have done it a good 6 inches lower.
Yeah, like right here
Yeah.
to get this bud. But yeah, I did it there because I didn't want to freak them out too much. But even at that, they were like, ah.
You should tell the Kent story.
You tell the Kent story. He called you.
So Kathleen and I, our brother, our youngest brother, he's on a big piece of property. So he planted a lot of trees. I don't know. I don't know. He planted maybe 40 trees or something, all bare root. This is a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. And then Kathleen and I came through, or no, I think you were there. I must not have been there. So
Yeah.
Kathleen came through and she cut all the trees down at like 12 to 18 inches, pretty severe cut. And Kent called me and he's like, oh no, Kathleen she just killed my whole orchard. And he's like, she cut them all off, like, 18 inches above grade. And I'm like, she did what? Is she crazy? Just kid with him, of course. And now he has 10 years later, he has a beautiful orchard. The scaffolding branches, what you want is those first scaffolding branches, 12 to 18 inches off the ground. And then you get these beautiful thick scaffolding branches in a radial pattern around if you do that first cut. And then your pruning's easier, your harvesting's easier, everything's easier. If you have a shorter, sturdier tree.
Yeah, then you don't need a ladder to prune, to harvest, to do anything. So yeah, you make that first cut, which if you buy a mature tree, you can't make that first cut. Okay. Oh, it froze on me. There we go. Okay, so the most important cut you will ever make. Oh, I went backwards.
Oh, you did go backwards.
Nope, I'm
Nope,
still
you
going
keep
backwards.
going backwards. You're still going backwards.
Shoot.
Well, let's repeat just in case people didn't get it the first time.
Irrigation. Am I still going backwards?
No, now you're
Okay,
going
yeah.
the right way, I think.
Nope, I'm going the wrong way.
Is there any way to go the other way?
Nope, and I'm stuck.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I'm gonna have to stop sharing again. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Maybe I can, what else can I talk about?
Let's see if this works.
Sorry, I know we're all like 3 years into Zoom now, but 2.5 years.
Yeah,
There we go.
okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Here we go. So this is a tree I got in the mail, and before the first cut and after the first cut, so you can see.
I'd say that's probably just 12 to 18 inches above the graft union.
Yeah, here's the graft. It's pretty short. Made
Yeah.
that cut.
Yeah.
Okay, irrigation. Roots need air as much as they need water. the biggest problem I see in gardens is overwatering. It is much better to water deeply, less often. A young new bare root is going to need to be watered more because it doesn't have as many roots. But now I'm watering my fruit trees, which they're 3 years old, every other week. I mean, in summer, every other week for probably 45 minutes.
I'll just,
So,
well, I'll just do another little plug for cover cropping. You know, probably one of the reasons why you have to water yours so little is because you're retaining so much moisture in your soil with the cover cropping. And so far, hopefully will continue. I mean, so far we've had a really nice winter with a lot of rain. And if you're mulched, if you're cover cropped and mulched, I mean, your tree right now is set for a while. Last winter, was it last? There is a couple winters in a row where we had a really warm January and February. And especially if you weren't cover cropped and mulched, I mean, you had to be putting water on your tree in winter because we were going like 2 months without any rain.
yeah, true.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I don't water very much. And I mean, really, people water too much. I think we noticed in this last drought with our water restriction, you can water a lot less than you think. Okay, disease prevention. One of the big diseases in home orchards is fire blight that your apples and your pears will get, but you can get a rootstock that's resistant. There's also peaches now that are resistant to peach leaf curl, which they're pretty good peaches. They weren't at first, now they are. Plant in full sun, you're going to be much better off and well draining soil. But if you plant up on a mound, which is the reason why we plant up on the mound, is so that the trees have good drainage. If you cover crop, especially with California natives, you're going to have predators. And even if it's not California natives, actually, you're going to have predators, but you're going to have a lot more good insects. I cover crop now with a mix of California natives that I get from Learner Seed up in Bolinas, and they make some really nice mixes. And if you prune and irrigate correctly, you will have less disease and pest problems. And if you do have them, you can change your habitat to encourage predators and remove mummies. And I'll show you. So choosing a planting site that is suitable for your tree is good. It's actually essential. Encourage naturally occurring biological controls. Plant high and plant in full sun. And these are mummies, which this is on a stone fruit. I think that's probably peach. Yeah. So you want to remove these. These are little bombs of disease. They're fungus in there. So you want to take your mummies off. And if you have gophers, plant in a gopher cage.
So even though we are saying plant high and plant on a mound, you can still put the gopher cage down and then put the soil back and put your tree down. And then the main roots will go into that gopher cage to protect them.
Yeah. And if you have birds, you can net. And this is a nice net. And you can put out sticky traps. Pest management. I have found that if I leave my trees alone, I don't have very many pests. And I mean, a lot of people spray horticultural oil and do all kinds of things. But if you just let nature work its magic, I think you'll be happier. With apples, if you have apples and you get worms in your apples, you want to thin your fruit when it's about the size of your thumbnail. And you want to take fruit that's touching and thin out all of them except one. So there's nothing touching, because that's where the insect lays its egg that becomes the worm that goes into your apple. So by doing that, you can get rid of the worms in your apples.
And one thing I should mention, it's unrelated to the topic, but we'll go through, at the end of the talk, we'll go through all the questions in chat. So if you have questions, put them in chat. Maybe Ken already said that, but.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, go ahead.
Soldier beetles are great. They eat tons of aphids. And if you have cherry trees, you have aphids. It's the only plant that gets, or the only tree that gets peach leaf curl is peaches and nectarines. So if you have leaves curling on something other than a peach or a nectarine, it's probably aphids. And you can hose them off or leave it alone and let the predators, the natural predators, come in. And attitude is everything. I have apples with worms in them, and it's not the end of the world to get an apple with a worm.
Yeah.
So your expectations will determine what you consider success. That's it.
Cool. Should we go?
It's Anne Ralph is Grow a Little Fruit Tree.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I have that book. That's a good book.
Yeah, there are my references. Thank you, Lyngsos, especially Terry and Kayan. And if you have questions, call the Master Gardeners. And that's it.
Cool. Ken, do you want to
Fantastic.
give us questions?
Yes, we've got quite a few here. So let's go back to the beginning and I'll just read them off to you both. So are all fruit trees available as bare root? What about citruses?
Citrus or not, only deciduous fruit trees are available as bare root because they go dormant.
Yeah.
Citrus don't go dormant in the same way. They don't lose their leaves. So just deciduous, which means that the leaves drop in the winter or summer if it's a California buckeye, but just deciduous fruit trees.
Got it. And then the UCANR chart that you had in your presentation, did that have County Santa Clara, including San Jose or Gilroy in that? That was only for San Francisco and San Mateo County, right?
Yeah.
Right. They might have one if you Google, University of California Agricultural and Natural Resources. This particular one is 8261. But if you go to the ANR catalog, they might have one that covers Santa Clara County and covers San Jose and Gilroy. I just don't know. This one is for Mid-Peninsula.
Or the Master Gardeners might have one. It might not be as
detailed,
extensive as this, but I bet they have recommendations on fruit trees.
Yeah, Santa Clara Master Gardener site. We're in San Mateo County Master Gardeners, but they're really good. And they have actually in San Jose, they have a fruit tree orchard, a demonstration orchard at Pouchard Park in San Jose. So that might be worth looking into also.
Yeah, or call the Master Gardener in your county.
Yeah.
And they can steer you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So how far away from the forest's tree line should you plant your trees?
Till you get to sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, if it depends what the forest is, if the forest is oak trees versus redwood trees, it's going to be different, but it needs to be pure sun. I mean, I do have some oak trees on my property, but I'm not within their shade. Kathleen and I say to clients, and this takes a little bit of dedication, but pick like summer solstice and winter solstice and go out in your yard, starting in the summer at 6 a.m, 7, 8, 9, 10, all day long. And, is direct sun hitting me right now? Or am I in shade? Am I in partial sun? And just be really honest with yourself. We can't tell you how many times we go to a person's house and they say, oh, I have pure sun, I have full sun all day long. We're both vegetable gardeners. And so we are like, great. And we go there and it's right next to a redwood tree. And we're like, yeah, you don't have full sun. And they're like, oh, well, I was sure I did. And so, so just, I mean, be honest with yourself. That's, and that's hard to do. It's hard for us all to do, but.
Yeah. And if you don't have full sun, go plant at your neighbor's who does, because honestly, you're not going to be successful if you don't have full sun.
Or you'll have partial success, but you're just going to be fighting nature. It's, and I think there used to be a commercial. You don't want to fight with Mother Nature. She's going to win. And so, you're going to just have more disease, and you're not going to have the growth you want, and you're not going to have the fruits that you want, and you're not,
Yeah.
So,
And your fruit's not going to taste as good.
yeah. So, and I think you need, I can't remember the statistics. It's in the book by Chuck Ingalls, but it's like you need 57 leaves per fruit. You just need a lot of energy is going to go into making this piece of fruit. And it's also totally cool when you look at your peaches, then when you're harvesting, you can harvest a peach and it's going to have a little thing shaped exactly like a leaf, where the leaf was right on the piece of fruit, and it's going to be yellow underneath that, and it's going to be red everywhere else. And it's just fascinating. That has nothing to do with anything other than most of gardening is observation. It's pay attention, see what you're looking at.
And I can tell you from years of gardening that you need full sun.
Yeah. Okay.
All righty. So the next question is, it sounds like if the trees are in mound planted, is it worth to dig them up and then get them planted higher?
If your tree is less than 2 years old, yes. What I did with my trees that were not high enough that I could, I cleared all the soil away, and I dug a trench around the trees. And from that trench, then I continued the trench to my neighbor's yard so that the water had somewhere to go. So, I mean, other than that one that was like 6 inches too deep, the others I could fix. But I mean, I kind of made a mound in level ground.
I don't think you could do it with a 2-year-old tree.
You don't think you could dig it up?
I mean, for me, I would say if you just planted them just, in the last week or 2 or 3, but after that tree roots, my money would be on, a lot of the trees, they're more like even in the $34 range. I guess I would cut it off and I would start over, and if it was a tree older than, maybe you could do it with a 1-year-old tree, but I don't know. My money would be on you just start over.
Yeah, I would see if you could dig a trench around it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
fix the problem.
Yeah.
And give a tug on the trunk. If it moves, then you probably can. If it feels pretty rooted, then leave it alone.
Yeah.
And try to dig a trench around it.
Yeah.
And remove the soil around the trunk, because soil on the trunk of a tree is like putting wet soil against your house. It's going to rot.
Yeah.
So you want to move the soil that's up against the trunk.
Yeah. Can you guys hear like an irritating sound from my speaker?
No.
Okay, great.
I think you're fine. All righty. So the next question's a bit, I think you could have a whole class on it by itself, but can you talk just briefly a little bit about growing fruit trees in containers? Size of the container, maybe a few types of trees that can be grown in containers, and the soil type, composting and mulching and all that needs.
I think if you get one of those big horse troughs and you kept the tree small, or you got one at Dave Wilson, they actually have miniature trees. I'm not thrilled about their miniature trees, but you would get some fruit. Citrus do fine in containers. Deciduous fruit trees, not as much. They need a really big container because those trees are going to get big. Lee,
Yeah.
did you have anything?
No, I'd say the same. I think citrus are fine in containers and actually really beautiful in containers. I just don't think you're going to have success with a deciduous fruit tree in a container.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen people whitewash with dehydrated lime for their fruit trees?
That's a different thing. That is like surround is, it's a powder that you put on mostly vegetables to, for insect control. I guess you could, I don't know why not, but yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I think I would stick with the latex water 50-50. I've seen lime, but I've seen it on diseased trees. I've seen people do a lime wash
Yeah,
on oak trees. I've never seen it on a deciduous fruit tree before.
I don't
I
know why
just-
you would.
I think you'd start messing with like the
Your
pH in your
pH.
soil. And
Yeah,
I just would be afraid it wouldn't be good for the soil.
yeah, that was my inclination, is your pH is gonna go up, and we already have fairly high pH that, yeah, I honestly don't know why you would, when you can get latex for like $10.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so the next question is about the first head cut. Do you
Yeah.
only do that the first year, or can
Yes.
you do it the second year? And if, what, can you review that real quick?
Yeah, I actually, I bought a peach in a 5-gallon container that was 2 years old. And I made a heading that first cut and it died.
Why did you
So-
buy a peach in a 5-gallon container?
At Half Moon Bay Nursery,
Uh-huh.
because a client really wanted a peach and we missed the window.
Oh,
So I made the cut, but the tree didn't survive. It was too severe. So be careful and know there's a chance that you're going to damage the tree. You could make a higher cut and leave some of the branches. But that first cut, you take off almost all the branches, and it's pretty severe.
yeah.
So I'd
And
be
when-
careful.
When you're getting a bare root tree, you're already getting a tree that's a couple years old. So yeah, I don't know. So then if you do it to a tree, then if you wait another 2 years, yeah, anyway,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I asked Matthew Sutton before I did it,
yeah.
and he said you have a 50-50 chance.
Okay, you got the
So-
wrong 50.
Yeah, I mean, it might survive and it might thrive and do great, but it might also die.
But just to emphasize what we talked about a lot in this talk, when you're planting a bare root for the first time, absolutely make that cut.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but if you planted your trees 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't. Yeah,
Okay, and this is sort of an odd question, but I'm guessing they're meaning for maybe evergreen, but do you recommend doing the same cut for the male tree? Like male and the female tree, but I don't know if deciduous trees have male and a female, so.
yeah. Fruit trees, unless it's kiwi, that's
Yeah,
the only
ki-
ones I know that have a male and a female.
Yeah, kiwi's the
Um,
only one I can think of. No, I think avocados is just an A and B.
Yeah, it's just when they bloom, and that's not a consideration in our area. That's for
Yeah.
Southern California, where you
Yeah,
need an A and B avocado.
Yeah.
And kiwi's a vine, and you're not gonna
Okay.
make the first cut on a kiwi like that. So,
are ginkgos, are there female and male ginkgo?
yeah, there's female and male ginkgo, but that's a whole different topic. That's a landscape tree.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of what trees at all, just in the whole tree kingdom are male and female, not deciduous fruit trees and not citrus. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of what trees are.
Yeah, what he's referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but all the fruit trees, all the deciduous fruit trees I know of, you would make that first cut.
Okay. What's considered a mature tree? Is it by height or before it bears fruit?
No, it is age. I would say 5 years and above is a mature tree. Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get into this because this is more about planting bare root trees, but we don't let our trees bear fruit, certainly not in the first 2 years. So we take all fruit off, 100% of the fruit off the first 2 years. The third year, you let it fruit just a little bit. So you probably take 75% of the fruit off on your third year. And then your fourth year, let's say through when it dies, and that depends on the tree when it dies. I'd say I take a 50 to 75% of the fruit off in spring when the fruit's little. They say like the size of your baby fingernail. And that's so your fruit sizes up. The reason why you're doing it in your first 2 years, taking all the fruit off, is so all that energy goes into root development and not into trying to put fruit on your tree. We do have some clients, like we'd let them get one piece of fruit maybe in year 2. And then in year 3, maybe we'd let them get 20 pieces of fruit or something. But you don't let that tree fruit. I personally would say
4 years?
Well, yeah, I was going to say 4 years. 3 years, it's still a baby, you know,
Yeah.
or it's an adolescent, let's say at 3 years. And then 4 years, it's a mature tree. And then for like a peach or a stone fruit, 25 years, Kathleen, would you say?
Yeah.
And then an apple tree could live 100 years.
Yeah.
So then it just, after it gets to that point, how long will it last after that? And it just depends then on the tree itself. But a lot of trees, you can get 20 years of production off that tree.
Yeah, or more if you baby them. And I will say the fruit, if like your 3-year-old tree, the fruit doesn't taste great, wait a year or so, because as those roots get into your native soil and, you know, eat up all the yumminess, the fruit tastes better a couple years into fruit production, I think.
Yeah. And this isn't a citrus class either, but I will say citrus the same. You plant a citrus and you don't have any fruit at all, like the first 3, sometimes 4 years, just no fruit. And then all of a sudden you have, 800 oranges or whatever. So don't be super hasty to take out a tree because it hasn't fruited in the first few years. And then purposely don't let your deciduous fruit trees fruit in the first few years.
Yeah, although they will fruit, you just want to take it off. Like
Right.
my pear that doesn't have a pollinator,
Yeah.
it flowered and it just never fruited, and it should have.
Yeah.
I had to pick up
Okay.
my dog.
All righty, so I'm going to combine 2 questions together about water. So how can you tell when a tree needs watering? Is there some sort of water meter? And can you give details on your watering schedule? Example, half gallon per hour, drip line for 45 minutes once a week, or just long enough to achieve the number of gallons needed? So
I use my finger and I look at the tree, but dig around a little bit. Soil knife, if you have one, is great. Look where the roots are, not right at the trunk. And I use a inline emitter that I wrap, like the picture you saw, that I wrap around the tree. And as that tree grows, I move that emitter out further. And let's see, I think it's Netafim I have.
It is.
On my schedule, I do it every other week for 40 minutes or so. You have to observe, and if that doesn't look like enough, then do it every week. But certainly you don't want to do it like every other day or every day. You want to you want some time for the soil to dry out and then water again.
The only thing I'll say to that, for a brand new tree, it's first summer, you're probably not going to get away with every other week. For a
No,
brand new tree, you're probably going to do, well, it depends how hot.
4 days.
Yeah, probably every 4 or 5 days if it's a super hot summer and we hadn't had a wet winter before. You know, it's hard to answer irrigation questions because it depends. It depends on the weather. It depends on how much wind. If you have more wind, you have to water more.
And it depends on your soil. If you have a really heavy clay soil, then you don't have to water as often because that clay soil is going to hold on to water better.
Yeah. And if you've cover cropped and if you mulched, and so there's so many things that go into that. I'd say the rule of thumb for a mature tree, and so let's call 4 years a mature tree, you know, then probably every other week in a normal summer with normal, you know, heat and no wind, that would be fine. And Kathleen, you're also close to the coast, so you probably have more humidity in your air.
Yeah.
I'm in Portola Valley. It's really windy where I'm at, and I have no humidity, so I probably have to water more than Kathleen. But it is, I think the main point is it's a deep, infrequent watering versus a frequent, shallow watering.
Exactly.
All right. How does a good rootstock prevent fire blight, which starts at the end of the branches?
You know, I don't know the biomechanics of it. Is that the right word? But I do know that it was many years ago. It was an orchard in New England of pears that all had fire blight except one. And so they took the rootstock from that one and they grafted other varieties onto it, and they saw that rootstock prevented disease on that tree. Well, didn't prevent it. Nothing's 100%. If it's a really bad fire blight year, which means a wet, warm spring is when fire blight's the worst. But it was by discovery. And it's actually the rootstock is OHXF or OF.
Oh, it's OHXF. I think it's Old House at Farm or something.
Old Homestead Farm, something like that. So it was
Yeah.
named after this rootstock that they found. They just found a tree that was fire blight resistant. I don't know how it works, but it does.
Yeah. And saying like a lot of peaches are on citation. Well, citation can handle heavy clay soil. We just looked at a bunch of rootstocks, Kathleen. I don't know if it was Dave Wilson or if it was Arboretum, but a lot of times they'll list what the rootstock is and then you can research the rootstock. But a lot of, like Dave Wilson, the research has been done for you. So
yeah, you can go on Dave Wilson website and look at rootstock and decide which one is best for your circumstances. And then find a nursery that has the tree you want on the rootstock you want, which most of them list on their website what trees they have and what rootstock they're on, and then go buy it.
All righty. So if you do that, heading on the first year on bare root trees, 12 to 8 inches above the graft, does that make the tree shorter when the tree's
Yes.
maturing?
Yeah,
That's the whole point,
of
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole point of making that initial cut 12 to 18 to 24 inches above the graft is to get those scaffolding branches down low, and then you can keep your tree little.
yeah, if you want the opposite, let's say you're going to have a specimen tree in your front yard and you want 5 feet of trunk before the first scaffolding branches, then don't make that cut. But 99% of people want to keep their trees 8 to 10 feet so they don't have to get out a ladder to harvest. So that's why you want to make that first cut, is for low, thick heavy scaffolding branches. The bummer, I will say, is like squirrels and, when you have those low scaffolding branches, it's easier for some creatures to get into your tree. But quite honestly, a squirrel is going to go up a tree, whether it's your first scaffolding branch is 1 foot from the ground or 5 feet from the ground. So
True that.
all right.
Okay, I think you've mentioned some resources, but we'll ask it anyway. Best place to purchase bare root fruit trees?
Oh, no, I didn't. Wegmans has bare root trees. Half Moon Bay Nursery, they have bare root trees, but they're in 5-gallon pots, but they let you not take the pot and pay the bare root price. I don't know if, let's see, I think,
Oh, Kathleen, you're muted. Kathleen. Oh,
okay, can you hear me now?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so did you hear Wegmans and Half Moon Bay Nursery?
Yeah.
And then,
You can order them.
Golden,
Pardon me.
Golden in San Mateo.
Yeah, maybe golden, but I think what most people do, it might be a little late for this year, but for next year, is you order them.
Yeah.
You order them from Trees of Antiquity or Arboreum, or can you order them direct from Dave Wilson, Kathleen?
No, you can't.
Okay. But you can order them from your local nursery. And because Kathleen goes to San Lorenzo Nursery down in Santa Cruz. And did you order Kent's, or did you just went and bought
No,
it?
we just went in and saw what they had and got trees.
Okay. Which, yeah, it's another one. Like right now, probably any good local nursery is going to have bare root fruit trees right now. And like Kathleen said, sometimes they do pot them up and then just ask them for the bare root. They charge more if they pot them up, but you don't want it potted up. You just want the bare root. So. Okay.
All right, this is a really good question. How do you recommend accounting for climate change when calculating chill hours? Is there any website that predicts future chill hours in a particular area?
That's a great question. And I just am kind of shooting from the hip on this, is that, like if you look on this chart where it says Portola Valley, Woodside, Atherton, your chill hours are 600 to 1,000. I am now buying trees that are 500 or less. It's just kind of a gut feeling I'm going with. We don't know for sure. And, unfortunately, we just had some great chill hours, but now they're getting all wiped out. It's in the sun today. Well, I don't know if it's wiping them out. It's at a certain level, it wipes them out. Yeah, I don't know of a website or a source that says our chill hours now. You could probably research and look at what the last 2 years in your city weather was, and you could figure out your chill hours. But
yeah,
I mean, other than that, I don't know how you would get it.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at this chart and go to zone A, B, or C, and I would just really head towards the low end. For zone A, I'd keep it 600, B 400, and obviously under 500 for the city. And you'd probably be okay with that. But where I'm in zone A, I wouldn't get something that's 1,000 chill hours. I actually know I'm not getting that much chill anymore. So, and this chart might have been done like 20 years ago. I think it was done by Chuck Ingalls, and my guess is this chart was done a while back. And so
it's a fairly old chart. What is still true is over in this column, the chill that each variety requires. And honestly, I would stay. I would go on the low end. I would go on 600. So, any of these would be okay. I'd
Yeah.
stay away from, the
Jonathan.
800s and the 700s.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's smart.
Yeah, but it's just kind of a gut feeling, tell you the truth. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of it's paying attention, but you have to pay attention over time. My first chill, I lived in Woodside before for the last 15 years. My first chill frost was always October 15th. Well, this year it was like November 30th or something. That was unusual.
Yeah.
So I'm getting chill hours later. And my last frost, usually I always thought was tax day, April 15th. And that has stayed actually pretty consistent for about the last 15 years. But I do pay attention, and I used to keep a chart. I haven't in a while now, but just always pay attention your first chill of the year and your last chill of the year. And then if you can, and it's a lot of bookkeeping, but just note every night that you get frost. Now frost is below 32 and chill hours are, is it 32 to 45, Kathleen? I can't remember.
Yes, it is.
So, but if you got frost that it got down to 32. So probably a lot of those nighttime hours were between 32 and 45.
Yeah, but if like you have the app Dark Skies,
Yeah.
it shows you what your night temp low is. And like here in Santa Cruz, we haven't been below 46 for a couple weeks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, look on a good weather app that gives you like your weekly lows and just see. And yeah, like Lisa said, pay attention. You could go and look at historical records, the last couple years and kind of figure it out. But yeah, I would say go on the low end of what this chart says, like 600, 400 is probably fine. And below 5, it's probably good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right. Do you have any website or recommendations for arborists who prune fruit trees in this area?
No, and every time I do an ISA class, in the comments where they say, what would you like to see? I say, I'd like to see fruit tree pruning, because I can't tell you the number of times I have gone and pruned somebody's fruit tree and they've complained to me that the last time they hired somebody, they didn't get fruit for 2 years because that arborist cut off all their fruiting wood.
Kevin Rafter. I mean, we could give you a couple names.
Yeah, but for an arborist to go and figure out how to prune a fruit tree, well, look at my last website or the last Zoom thing I did, presentation. I go through and I talk about the fruiting wood and where your fruit is.
Yeah.
Good website. I'm trying to think of a good website. I can't think of one. If you go on, well, it's in the, where is that? It's the ANRC catalog has a publication on fruit and where the fruiting wood is.
Yeah.
So
I
if
just
you just go to that website and type in fruit tree, it'll come up.
Yeah, but I don't think this person wants to prune their own trees. They want to hire somebody to prune their trees.
Oh, I thought she said an arborist for a website.
Oh, I thought she was looking for an arborist to prune his or her fruit trees, but
Yeah,
maybe
you're right, Lisa. Yeah, they are looking for an arborist
Oh,
to prune fruit trees, essentially.
oh, okay.
Never
Sorry,
mind.
I thought they were an arborist. Yeah, Kevin Raftery.
Kevin Raftery is really good. The thing is, we send so many people to him.
Yeah.
And he was busy before we started sending like hundreds of people to him. But you can look him up, Kevin Raftery. He probably knows somebody that he can recommend, because I will say it's hard. There's a lot of bad arborists out there, and there's a handful of good ones. There's a lot of people who say they're arborists, or like an ISA certified arborist owns the company, but the actual people who come and do the work aren't arborists. And we run into that a lot. And even with even with arborists that have good reputations, I look at some of the work and I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. I would ask whoever you're thinking of hiring, where does it fruit? Don't ask them if they know fruit trees, ask them to tell you where the fruit is. And if they tell you on an apple and a pear, it's the spurs. And if they tell you on a peach, it's 2-year-old wood, then you can hire them. Otherwise, keep looking.
I think that's a good litmus test.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay,
Okay,
they'll
so
lie.
we don't have to go into too much detail for this next question because I know you both did a cover crop class, but this person went looking for the Larner Seeds website and they didn't see anything labeled as for fruit or cover for fruit trees.
Yeah, it's
It
not.
It won't be labeled that way.
It's not cover crop, it's just a mix. It's because when you cover crop, you want to supercharge your soil, so you want at least 8 different types of plants from 8 different plant families. So you just want a nice mix of flowering seeds, and you could throw in some native California grasses as well. That's what I do. It's not specifically a cover crop, but it is a cover crop.
But if you wanted to get specific cover crop, I won't say for fruit trees or something like that, but you could go to Peaceful Valley, which is groworganic.com.
Yeah, but they all have veg.
Yeah, I'd avoid veg. But Kathleen, what's the name of the one from Utah?
Nature's Seeds.
Yeah, Nature's Seeds. There's a lot. If you put cover crop in your search engine, along with like organic cover crop seeds or something like that, but kind of, I think, and also if you want to watch a cover crop presentation, just go to Lyngso and look at their past classes. And Kathleen did a class on cover crop, whatever, 6 months ago or something. But you want to mix, you want some grasses, you want some flowers, California natives. And so there's nothing that's going to say specific for fruit orchards, but don't want to spend too much time on cover crop, but yeah, vetch does take over. I cover cropped with vetch, and now my whole property is covered with vetch. So
yeah, I don't like vetch either. And I just read a book about planting natives and how important it is for the insects and the birds. And so I now am cover cropping with California natives. So that's why I said Larner Seeds.
yeah,
I just think it's an easy way to put natives in your garden without, redoing your whole garden in natives. Is just throw out some native seeds. They're going to do well because they're native, and it's an easy way to feed the insects that are in our area.
a couple of plugs. Calscape, which was put together by the California Native Plant Society. Go to Calscape. I mean, it's amazing. And cover cropping is great, but you could also plant some perennials too, California natives. And then Doug Tallamy's book, Nature's Best Hope, I think is the book you're referring to, Kathleen.
Yeah.
And just the emphasis on natives. Obviously, fruit trees are hybridized and everything else, but that doesn't mean you can't plant natives around them. And it's roots in the ground what you're trying to do, the more roots in the ground, the better. Okay.
Alrighty. Fig trees, same principles to prune them as well?
Yeah, I love fig trees. I cut my fig off, 18 inches, but a fig's gonna do what a fig's gonna do.
Yeah.
It's a little funky. It's a little, figs are in the rubber tree family, and they're kind of rubbery, and they're a little funky, but just know that they're a little funky. But I love figs, and figs are so fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Any suggestions on how to prevent gray foxes from eating all the stone fruit?
Nope.
How to prevent what from eating all the stone fruit?
Gray
foxes.
Gray foxes?
Yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
cool. You probably don't have any squirrels.
I had a fox in my yard. Oh,
Yeah,
in November.
that was
Yeah. Did you see it, Kathleen?
that was beautiful.
Yeah,
That
there's
fox.
such beautiful animals.
I didn't know gray foxes ate all your fruit.
That seems like it should be like a children's nursery rhyme or something.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to keep foxes from eating your fruit. Maybe have it up higher. Do they climb trees?
I don't know. I don't know enough about foxes.
Huh, cool.
Yeah. Alrighty, so with the mound, do you only water the tree in the trenches?
When it's young, you're gonna want to water close to the trunk because those roots aren't down and spread out yet. But as the tree grows, you'll move that irrigation line out to like the drip line. So if your branches are out here, you want your irrigation line to be out where the branches end.
Okay. The next question, I know this is not really a tree, but this person planted passion fruit vines about 3 weeks ago, and they're just wondering if they should be replanted on a mound.
No, as long as they're not too deep. Passion fruit vines, well, the one I have in my backyard went nuts. Although you can eat the fruit. I don't really think of them as a fruit bearing, it's more ornamental, but you know, you don't want to plant any perennial low. All perennials should be planted kind of up where you can see the top of the roots, but I mean, I don't know how low you planted it, but just make sure you can see the top of the roots.
Yeah.
And it should be super vigorous and super beautiful, and you're gonna love it.
Yeah. So all perennials you plant high, annuals you can plant low.
Yeah.
Okay. Could we briefly touch on using wood chips as mulch and how thick, and should it touch the tree and all that? Just the basic principles of mulching.
Yeah, so when you mulch, you want to leave a donut around the tree so you don't have the mulch right up against the trunk. Like I was saying, when you have, like if you put mud against your house, you're going to get rot. It's the same principle with mulch. The thicker, the better. And Lisa has a fire escape comment.
Well, thicker the better to a point. Yeah, if you're in a high fire area, I mean, I'd say 2 to 3 inches, but I probably wouldn't go 4 to 6 inches. And smaller pieces. Yeah, you just want to be careful because you want to be fire smart about it. Mulch, I did talk to the fire chief in my area, and he's the fire chief for Woodside and Portola Valley, because there's a lot of rumors going around that you shouldn't have mulch at all if you're in a high fire area. And he said that's not true, that mulch is good, but you certainly don't want it. You don't want it 5 feet from your house. So there you'd put, if you're going to mulch there, use rocks or, pebbles. But after that, 2-3 inches are good, but you just don't, you don't want it a foot deep or something.
And Pam, you guys, you have a fire presentation, don't you?
Yeah, there's a fire escaping class on the community resources that you could check out as well. And that'll talk about mulch and the fire zone areas and all that. So it's a really good talk.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
I should
Okay.
probably watch that.
So compared to non-native ornamental trees, are fruit trees typically more susceptible to diseases overall?
It depends on the tree. Peaches get peach leaf curl and they can get some brown rot. Apricots get eutypa. Apples and pears get fire blight. I mean, it's pretty specific, the diseases they get, and there's things you can do about most of the diseases. Like if you get fire blight, as soon as you see it, remove it. But compared to ornamentals, I wouldn't say they're any more susceptible. And like peach leaf curl, you can spray with a copper fungicide around this time of the year. I don't, because I don't want a copper fungicide killing a fungus, which I have fungus in my soil that I want. So I don't spray. It's probably going to shorten the life of my peach a couple years, but I'm willing to put up with that to keep my soil healthy. But I don't think they're more disease prone than an ornamental. They're probably more disease prone than like a ceanothus, but you know, you're getting fruit.
Yeah. I'd agree.
Okay.
I know this class is not really about this, but can you briefly maybe talk about the berry bushes like blueberries, raspberries, and their requirements? And I'm guessing stone fruit rules don't really apply to them.
No, so blueberries, you don't prune at all the first couple years, and they don't really come bare root, but they do come in sleeves. They also come in 5-gallon containers from, help me, Lisa, who's the citrus grower?
Well, rain tree, oh, Four Winds.
Four Winds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rain tree, you can buy them on the internet, but do they come bare root?
I don't think they do come bare root.
They come in sleeves?
You know, I don't know. I haven't bought mine that way. Make sure you get Southern High Bush in this area.
Yeah.
And my caneberries,
They came bare root?
I'm trying to think. I bought my caneberries actually through one of the Master Gardener plant sales, but they were in a pot.
You
But
can get them bare root. I ordered
Yeah.
some from Trees of Antiquity and they come bare root, sort of currants.
yeah.
Oh,
I love
you
that.
don't cut them off in the same way. Go to UC IPM and read about berries, and it'll say pruning, and it'll give you what you should do the first couple years, and just follow that.
Yeah.
But no, you're gonna plant them high because they're a perennial. Any perennial you want to plant high, you want to see the roots. But blueberries, you need to watch your pH. Cover crop like crazy around your blueberries, and caneberries, just be aware they're super vigorous and they're invasive.
And they escape. Yeah.
They escape where you planted them.
Yeah.
That kind of covers that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I love currants.
Yeah, I do too. And they're such a pretty plant.
Yeah, love.
Do you know if nurseries just pot up the unsold bare root trees at the end of their planting season if they're not sold or anything?
Yes, they do. And then
Yeah.
they sell them for more money. And
Yeah.
then you buy them and you make that first heading cut and they die.
So just buy them bare root right now.
Yeah. Or wait till next winter. If you've missed the window of bare root trees, honestly, accept that you missed the window and wait. Prepare your site and wait until next Christmas and get them then.
Yeah.
But they're available now. I mean, you have easily another month where they're still bare root, they're not leafing out, and you can buy them and make that first cut.
Yeah, exactly. And then if there's specific trees you want, you have to, it's like September or something, but you have to order them pretty early because they do sell out. And I was surprised, I think it was Trees of Antiquity, but how many had sold out of varieties that were interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you can still get some trees now on Trees of Antiquity, and you'll get them delivered probably within the month. But most of the really good trees are sold out. You could probably get cherries and apricots.
All righty. So this person purchased some bare root trees and they'll arrive in February, but their soil won't be ready to plant in until fall of this year. And they're wondering if the bare root trees will survive in pots for that length of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's not ideal though.
No, but if that's what you have, I'd still make that first cut
Yeah,
and I'd put them in the biggest container you can.
yeah,
But yeah, they should be okay.
yeah, yeah,
Wait
yeah.
until they go dormant to transplant them.
Yeah, then wait till next January to plant them. Yeah, but I agree. Put them in a big pot as big as you can. Keep those roots moist and watered in good soil. Make that first cut. And yeah, I mean, you're kind of healing them in, but you're healing them in for a year.
Yeah.
So it's a little tricky, I'd say.
Okay, so this person was told if you purchase a tree in a pot, you can remove the soil to inspect the roots for any damaged roots and plant as a bare root tree. Do you agree?
Yes. In fact, if you go to, I think it's Linda Chalker, she recommends that any perennial you wash off the soil and plant as a bare root.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I saw her webinar, so I did that, and I had great success with some and not great success with others. If you like a rhododendron or an azalea that have really shallow roots that are very dense, I wouldn't do that as much. But her point is that most of the perennials are in pots too deep, and you need to find the root flare before you plant it. And
Mhm.
she also prunes the roots. If there's, if it's root bound and the roots are winding in the pot, you want to cut those roots to prevent the winding, or if they're kinked and crossing, you want to improve the root structure. I wouldn't get in the weeds too much with it, but you do want to see the root flare, and most perennials you can plant bare root.
Okay. Interesting question here. Will bare root trees suffer a little at the beginning without mycorrhizae? They had it before getting dug up from the field.
No, they'll find it.
Yeah.
I think it's there in abundance.
Yeah, by the time they leaf out, which if you plant them now, it's not going to be until late March, April when they leaf out. They should have found the mycorrhizae by then.
Or the mycorrhizae will
Vice
find,
versa.
yeah, the mycorrhizae will find them.
Yeah.
I freeze every once in a while, so if I'm not talking for a while, it's because I'm losing internet connection from time to time.
Do you have any recommendations on pruning very mature persimmon or fig trees?
Figs you can do anything to. Persimmons, they fruit on new wood. So if you prune them now, you're not going to affect your fruit production, because what grows, so if you cut it today, what grows this spring through summer is where your fruit is. So you can pretty much do anything. Persimmons, if it's a mature tree, even a fig, if it's a mature tree, you don't want to take off more than like 25% of what is going to be your leaf cover. And be careful that you don't get sunburn. If you open it up to the sun hitting a part of the tree that didn't have sun on it before, you might want to paint it 50-50. But yeah, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, and I just say with persimmons, that since they do fruit on new wood, that means the wood is kind of out from the main scaffolding branches. I bring my persimmons quite a bit back because that fruit gets really, really heavy. And you can certainly have a branch breakout because of too much fruit.
Yeah, and you can also prune in spring and summer. In fact, my fruit trees, I'm almost not pruning this winter because I did spring and summer fruit pruning, sorry. And it's, you can see then if your branches are getting too heavy, you can just cut off the ends and it'll get stronger.
Yeah, and a winter prune is to invigorate and a summer prune is to devigorate. So you have to look at your tree and know what one you want to do. Or both.
Yeah.
Okay. Are avocado trees available as bare root?
No,
I know
they're
they're
not.
evergreen. Yeah.
Yeah, they're evergreen. They're not available bare root. They're good plant. You could plant them now. If you're in an area that you get a hard frost, I would wait and not plant them now. I'd plant them in the spring after the danger of frost is past. And just a note on avocados, the AB thing is not, it doesn't apply to this area. So you can plant any avocado, you can plant a single avocado and you're fine.
Because there are enough pollinators around our area. Is that?
Well, in Southern California, some of the flowers open at a certain time and other flowers open at a different time.
Mhm.
But we don't have that temperature swing here as much. So we don't have, it doesn't happen here. The male and the female, which are on the same plant, open at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, alrighty. So just to clarify, evergreen trees like citrus and avocado, they're not going to be found as bare root. You have to buy them and potted. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So I think that just about did it. Oh yeah, gray foxes can climb trees and bear root. Oh, no, wait. Will eat fruit. But any closing remarks and then we'll just sign off.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for zooming in.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you, both of you, and we'll see you for another exciting class, probably in about a month or two, I think, so.
Yeah, I think Lisa's teaching vegetables.
That's right.
Cool.
All right,
All
everybody.
right.
Thanks
Talk
for
to you
joining us
soon.
today. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye, thank
Bye.
you.